Morocco arrived in Houston and left Canada's World Cup dream in ruins, a 3-0 demolition that was as clinical as it was comprehensive. Welcome to FairPlay Football AI Review. This was a round of 16 clash with everything on the line for the co-hosts. Canada, playing on home soil in front of nearly 69,000 fans at NRG Stadium in Houston, desperately needed to advance to the quarterfinals and justify the enormous expectation that had built around their first World Cup in nearly 40 years. Morocco, meanwhile, arrived as one of the most battle-hardened sides left in the tournament, a team that had already beaten the Netherlands 3-2 in the group stage and drawn with Brazil. The stakes could not have been higher. The pre-match narrative centered almost entirely on Canada's sense of destiny. Jesse Marsch had navigated the group stage with a 6-0 thrashing of Qatar and a dramatic late win over South Africa, but a loss to Switzerland had revealed vulnerabilities at the back and a worrying inability to control games against elite opposition. Jonathan David, the talismanic striker, arrived under pressure after a quiet group stage, while Alphonso Davies, notably absent from the starting 11, added intrigue to Marsch's team selection. Jesse Marsch set Canada up in a 4-4-2, a bold and direct shape designed to press high and give Jonathan David a partner to work alongside in the form of Tani Oluwase. The two lines of four were meant to compact space and launch quick transitions through Tajon Buchanan's pace on the right flank and Ali Ahmed's energy on the left. It was an aggressive, confrontational setup, a statement that Canada intended to take the game to Morocco rather than sit deep and absorb. Morocco's coach Mohamed Ouabi countered with a 4-2-3-1, a structured and sophisticated system that relied on Brahim Diaz operating as the fulcrum in the attacking midfield line, flanked by the industrious Azzedine Ounahi and Bilal El Khanous. Ayoub Bouadi and Neil El Ainoui anchored the double pivot, offering both defensive cover and the platform to recycle possession. Achraf Hakimi, deployed at right back, was always likely to be a key weapon in wide areas. The tactical mismatch that proved most damaging was in the central corridor. Canada's flat 4-4-2 left genuine space between the lines, precisely the pockets that Ounahi was designed to exploit. Morocco's double pivot gave them numerical security in midfield, while Diaz drifted into areas where Canada's shape simply couldn't track him cleanly. Steven Eustáquio was forced into a constant chase, and the Canadians never found a satisfactory answer to the problem all evening. Canada actually started the brighter side, generating 11 corners by the final whistle and registering 10 shots in total, but that stat flatters them. Much of their early energy was disorganized and frenetic rather than purposeful, driven by nervous intensity rather than structured attacking buildup. Morocco were content to absorb pressure, sit behind their lines, and wait for the moment to strike. That patience would prove devastatingly effective. The first half descended into a disciplinary spectacle unlike anything else at this tournament. 8 yellow cards were shown in total across the 90 minutes, the most of any match at the 2026 World Cup, surpassing the previous record of 7 set in the group stage. 4 of those bookings came in the final 10 minutes of the first half. Laryea and Hakimi both carded for a heated confrontation, in which the Moroccan shouldered the Canadian fullback to the turf, followed immediately by David for cynically halting a counterattack, then Ounahi and El Khanous in quick succession at the whistle. The atmosphere was combustible. The final moments before the break were particularly significant for Ounahi, who picked up his yellow card with the last act of the first half, meaning he walked into the tunnel carrying a caution that would require him to be careful in the second period. That booking came just minutes after Canada's Luc de Fougerolles was also carded for a foul that added to the ill-tempered theater. Referee Michael Oliver had his hands full throughout. Canada's best first-half chance came from Buchanan, whose direct running caused Morocco genuine discomfort on the right side. Oluwase also fired a shot that tested Yassine Bounou, but the Moroccan goalkeeper was rarely under the kind of sustained pressure his opposite number feared. Canada's XG across the full match was just 0.81, a number that tells you everything about how sterile their attack ultimately was, despite the territorial pressure. At halftime, Morocco led 0-0 on the scoreboard, but led decisively on composure and intent. Canada had thrown numbers forward, won corners, and committed to an aggressive press, but without a clear goal-scoring sequence to show for it. The sense was that Morocco were waiting, coiled and ready, for the moment the hosts' energy dipped. That moment arrived 5 minutes into the second half, and it was absolutely stunning. Canada came out for the second period still pushing, still believing, but the decisive blow arrived before they could reset the tactical picture. In the 54th minute, Achraf Hakimi collected a free kick on the right side and rolled it with intelligence to the edge of the Canadian penalty area. Ounahi read the movement perfectly, took one touch, and unleashed a ferocious right-footed strike that arrowed into the bottom right corner. Maxime Crepeau had absolutely no chance. 1-0 Morocco, and the hosts' World Cup dream began to unravel in real time. The early substitution of Ismail Saibari at just 22 minutes, before he had truly settled into the game, brought Soufiane Rahimi into the contest, and that switch would have massive consequences later. Rahimi offered a completely different profile up front, physical, direct, and relentlessly dangerous in transition. It was a bold call from Wabi, but the rationale became clearer as the match progressed and Canada chased the game. The hour mark brought a flurry of changes from both benches. Marsh turned to Cyle Larin to add physical presence alongside David, replacing the tiring Oluwaseyi, while Morocco made a double substitution that shifted their midfield balance entirely. Sofiane Amrabat coming on to protect the lead with his combative presence, and Chemsdine Talbi replacing El Kanous to add fresh legs on the flank. These changes collectively altered the game's rhythm, slowing Morocco down into a more managed, controlled tempo. Larin's introduction immediately added a degree of aggression Canada had lacked, but his energy came with a yellow card in the 67th minute for a foul, his first meaningful contribution being a booking rather than a chance created. Canada were increasingly desperate and disjointed, their 11 corners reflecting not territorial dominance, but an inability to break down Morocco's organized defensive block with any genuine craft or invention. Marsh's double change on 78 minutes, Jacob Schaffelberg replacing Lariea and Promise David coming on for Ali Ahmed, felt like an acknowledgement that the original plan had failed completely. Canada needed pace and width, but by this point Morocco were so well organized defensively that there was no credible route through. The 82nd minute settled the contest beyond any doubt. Brahim Diaz, who had been outstanding throughout, operating with an intelligence and subtlety that Canada's midfield simply could not cope with, completed a surging run, turned cleverly, and threaded a perfectly weighted pass to Ounahi inside the box. The Moroccan midfielder had the simple task of side-footing home, and he did so with the calm of a player who had been doing this all night. 2-0, and the tie was over. That second Ounahi goal was the decisive moment of the entire match, and it underlined exactly why Brahim Diaz was the most influential player on the pitch. 2 assists, 4 World Cup assists in total across the tournament, which makes him the leading assist provider from any African nation in World Cup history. His combination of technical quality, spatial awareness, and the ability to deliver at crucial moments defined Morocco's performance entirely. Stoppage time brought one final moment of Moroccan brilliance. Rahimi, who had already struck the crossbar with a header in the second half, latched onto another Diaz-instigated breakaway and swept a left-footed finish into the net in the 90th plus 7th minute. 3-0 and a scoreline that was arguably flattering to the co-hosts. Possession told only part of the story. Morocco finished with 55% of the ball and 82% pass accuracy against Canada's 76%, but the more telling numbers were in Morocco's economy. They managed just 5 shots in total against Canada's 10, yet scored 3 times from an XG of only 0.69. That is ruthless, elite-level finishing efficiency. Canada had more shots, more corners, more dangerous attacks, but far less of the calm, decisive quality that turns chances into goals. Morocco's defensive structure was a masterclass in organized low-block defending. They allowed Canada just 3 shots on target across 90 minutes, and only a single save was required from Bunu in the first half. The back four of Hakimi, Issa Diop, Redouane Halhal, and Noussair Mazraoui barely gave David or Oluwaseyi a sight of goal in any genuine danger zone. Canada's attacking statistics look impressive in isolation. 6 shots inside the box, 4 off target, but almost none of them were created from positions of real quality. The standout performer on the pitch was unquestionably Azzedine Ounahi. 2 goals, both right-footed strikes of genuine quality, 42 passes completed, and a physical presence that dominated Canada's midfield throughout the second half. He had the audacity to pick up a yellow card at the end of the first half and then come out and score twice in the second. His performance will be remembered as one of the defining individual displays of this World Cup. Brahim Diaz was the architect of everything Morocco created in the final half hour. 2 assists, 19 passes, but the numbers don't capture the quality of his movement, the way he drifted into pockets, turned defenders, and delivered with the kind of precision that changes games. He is operating on a different level from anyone else in this tournament, and his place in World Cup history is now secured. The honest verdict on Canada's attacking play is damning. Jonathan David, their most celebrated goalscorer, the man who was supposed to lead this tournament charge on home soil, finished with 3 shots, 1 on target, and a yellow card. He was isolated, starved of service, and visibly frustrated throughout. For a player of his quality at club level, this World Cup has been a profoundly disappointing personal story. From a tactical perspective, Jesse Marsch's 4-4-2 was well-intentioned, but ultimately found out by Morocco's superior structure. The flat midfield four never managed to get close enough to Diaz to limit his influence, and the high press that worked so well against Qatar and South Africa was simply bypassed by Morocco's composed, build-up play. The decision not to start a holding midfielder was questionable, and the substitutions, while reasonable in timing, couldn't reverse a fundamental structural mismatch. Morocco have now beaten Canada on both occasions these two sides have met. The previous encounter coming at the Qatar 2022 World Cup in the group stage, also a Moroccan victory. There is a clear psychological edge here, and Canada simply have no answer to Morocco's blend of technical quality and defensive organization. This is not a rivalry. It is a one-sided contest that Morocco have owned entirely. Canada's elimination comes at the end of a mixed campaign. They beat Qatar 6-0 in their opener, drew with Bosnia-Herzegovina, lost to Switzerland in a result that exposed their defensive fragility, and then recovered enough to beat South Africa before ultimately falling to Morocco. A group stage exit from your own World Cup, though dressed up with one strong performance, is a sobering outcome for a program that had genuine ambitions of going deep in this tournament. Morocco end this match with form lines that read as one of the most impressive in the entire competition. 8 wins from their last 10 across all competitions, including victories over the Netherlands, Haiti, and Scotland, plus that remarkable draw with Brazil. They are not a surprise package anymore, they are a genuine contender. Their next assignment is France in the quarterfinals on the 9th of July, a test of an entirely different order. Canada are eliminated from the 2026 World Cup. Their story ends here in Houston, beaten by a better organized, more clinical, and tactically superior Morocco side. For all the emotion of hosting the tournament, the on-pitch reality was always going to be the final arbiter. Morocco advanced to the last 8 deserving of every superlative. Ounahi's double, Diaz's historic assists, and a defensive solidity that never cracked. This was a complete performance. The Atlas Lions face France next, and after what we witnessed today, no one should dismiss them lightly. This was a night that defined both nations' summers. One moves on with belief and momentum, the other faces a long reflection on what might have been. We'll be back with full coverage of the quarterfinals as the 2026 World Cup enters its most intense phase. Next up, France against Morocco. And on the basis of today, that is a match worth clearing your diary for. That's the FairPlay verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony FairPlay. See you next match.